Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup. So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House. Listening post to the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Country Club. Country Club for Shaw's Bend Social Club. It's a country club for folks who don't have a country club. All right, tell you what, we're at Texas A&M, one of my favorite places in the world to visit this morning. Aggieland, great place. Okay, now, the reason we're here is we're going to visit with a young man over here in the Rangelands Wildlife and Fisheries Department who's made a little bit of a name for himself, Mr. Wardell. And we're going to see what kind of information we can get from Mr. Wardell. Ty, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for coming over and having a conversation with me.
You bet. All right, Ty, tell me a little bit about where you're from originally.
Well, originally I was born on the Lake Traverse Reservation, northeastern South Dakota. But growing up, we moved down to the northwestern corner of Nebraska in a little town called Chadron. That's where I went to high school. Mm-hmm. Grew up in kind of a ranching community with a little college there, Chadron State College. We ran some horses and cattle, and family was really into rodeo and agriculture.
Cool. All right. You found your way to A&M. All right. You want to fill the blanks in there a little bit?
Sure. I guess I kind of got a winding road to A&M. After high school, I went to the University of Wyoming to rodeo for the college team there. And after a year of engineering classes, I thought maybe college wasn't the right thing for me. So I dropped out and decided to pursue professional rodeo competitions, in the PRCA and the Indian National Finals rodeo circuits. I rode barebacks for about 7 years. Ended up breaking my leg really bad. Broke my tibia and fibula and decided maybe it was time to get a real job. So I went back to college at my hometown there that I thought I'd never go back to, Chadron State College. Went for a range degree and had some great professors there that really helped mentor me along, and then moved on to a master's degree at South Dakota State. And there we translocated bighorn sheep from Alberta down to the Black Hills of South Dakota, and I tracked those sheep around for 2 years and kind of figured out what kind of resources they were using in the Black Hills there. Then from there, I went to Kansas State for my Ph.D. And studied carnivores out in the western one-third of the state in that short grass prairie, looking at how community dynamics between coyotes and swift fox and raccoons and the carnivores that they still have over there, what kind of community dynamics they have. And then Texas A&M reached out. When I finished with my Ph.D., I came down here for a postdoc, and I was a postdoc here for 1 year before becoming an assistant professor in 2023. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years.
Well, okay. Now tell me, postdoc, what's that mean?
So a postdoc is generally a year or two of training after you get your Ph.D. You go on to do some additional research, maybe for some professors in a department, and kind of grow your skill set a little bit more before they give you a chance at being an actual professor.
So now being a professor, you get to teach.
Now I get to teach. Yep, that's a part of my my appointment. So I got about 60% research, 30% teaching, and 10% service. That's my job.
All right. Okay. The postdoc. All right. Fill in some more. What did you do? Okay. So you had to, they wanted you to know more before you started teaching. What did you do?
Well, I actually taught some classes here as a postdoc. I started teaching the class that I teach still, which is wildlife techniques and management. But I also started a seminar series on traditional ecological knowledge, looking at how indigenous knowledge might influence some scientific skill sets and management techniques that we can use. I did a seminar series with that where we had experts all over the United States and Canada put on a seminar for graduate students. And then I also started analyzing different data sets on white-tailed deer and axis deer and things like that, and figuring out more statistical methods that I can be using in my own research.
Okay, define indigenous knowledge.
So indigenous knowledge would be, the thousands of years of knowledge that's been orally passed down at these place-specific indigenous places. If you're talking about some of the tribes that have been on the landscape for thousands of years in a singular place, they have, immense knowledge of how the ecosystem works in that specific place. Now, if you're talking about some tribes have been moved around the country due to different relocation efforts, from the government, moving tribes onto reservations. They don't generally have that thousands of years of knowledge at those specific locations, but they can still bring that knowledge from the original locations they were at. And I like to talk to my students about thinking this in a way. If your grandparents were here in Texas, for 200-300 years, and they've had a farm or a ranch, they're going to know that land a lot better than somebody from the university is going to know that land. So if I came out, to your grandfather's land, he's been there working for 60 years, and I tried telling him, this is the spot that deer are gonna be using the resources, but he knows he hasn't seen a deer in that patch of trees for the last 60 years. He's gonna wonder what the heck I'm learning or teaching his kids, over at the university. So if you've been on a piece of land or an area for 60 years up to thousands of years, if you're talking about indigenous knowledge, you're gonna have a very strong connection to that property, that piece of land that could be beneficial to management that we use today.
All right. Were you able to run around Texas a little bit, and as far as indigenous knowledge, talk to some of the folks around, from the Caddos in East Texas to the, I can't put a name on it, but like the Shumla School out around Del Rio?
Yeah, I haven't really got a chance to do that yet in Texas. I still feel like I'm fairly new and learning the landscape. Texas is a big place. I've run around to the different, big ranches, King Ranch, East Foundation, down in South Texas, McAllen, all the way back around in Hill Country. We've got some research going on in the Hill Country, but still making these connections in Texas and trying to find my place.
Well, that's it. Well, you're covering a lot of ground, and you're covering a lot of various ecoregions. Crap. Hang on. There we go. Turn this thing on. I hate that when that happens.
Just glad it wasn't me.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. have you been able to pick up any of the stuff? I mean, it's hard because, like I said, there's so many different ecoregions around the state, and you had so many tribes here in Texas that some of them moved to East Texas, some of them stayed put. You had your mound builders, but then West Texas, you had your clans that followed acorns and deer and all that. So it's a lot of difference. Like, I don't know I don't know how to respond to that either. Yeah. But okay, but where you came from, are you Native American?
Yeah, my mom's a tribal member, Sistenwapton Oyate, there at the Lake Traverse Reservation.
Okay. Now, was that a people that pretty much stayed in one spot?
Yeah, I think originally in Minnesota, and then kind of got pushed out by the Ojibwe onto the plains, and then horse showed up in the 1500s, and the Dakota and the Lakota, kind of took over there in the northern Great Plains.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, because Texas has been so varied, and people think of Texas and they think of Comanches and Apaches, and they were not indigenous to Texas. They followed the buffalo down. There was a great, they used to have a class here on indigenous Indians of Texas. I bet they still do. And it was taught by Dr. Harry Schaefer. And his TA at the time that I was there was Carolyn Boyd, and she's the person who takes care of the Shumla School now out at Del Rio and Comstock. And that was very interesting because they would take all these, it's all about how did the Indians live in the Chihuahua Desert. And then they picked it up one time. They'd have like about 8 or 9 stations. They'd have all these little things that they would do, and they'd teach them all these kids. The elementary schools would go there for field trips. And they picked the whole thing up one time and took it to Acuna and put it on a park right by the river. And they had, Acuna's got like 5 times as many people as there is in Del Rio. And they brought all these elementary kids from Acuna, and those kids would sit down and start helping the people doing the skills. And, and they were amazed. And I was telling them, I said, hey, these kids are only a few generations removed from that. And I don't know if you see that kind of stuff more up north. I don't know.
I think there's a real effort to continue these traditional ways of, whether it's processing wild game or knowing the local vegetation and different fruits and things like that, or something that's like prairie turnips, figuring out how to dig them up and use them as forage stuff. It's something that's kind of making a resurgence, trying to pass it down to the next generation.
Okay, all right, yeah. It's and how much? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's save it for the second half, because I'm wondering how much is different and how much is the same when you're talking about like rangeland science, right, and you're moving around with all these, from up north to down here, where there's so many different regions. So I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break. Thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies, Miss Susan and I are classmates, been classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency, taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson, that's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County, that's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House. Also, the LostRiderPodcast.com. Okay, so we're at A&M this weekend. We're with Ty Wardell. He's telling us all about how he's come down here from Nebraska in the North Country, and he's at A&M. He's a professor here at A&M, and we're relating some of the stuff, the rangeland science, wildlife science, some of the different things, as well as one of the interesting points in the first half we talked was indigenous science, where, we talked about, go back to the old ways, go back and know how some of the stories from the old folks, how stuff really works. If they've been there that long, they know better than someone fresh coming in from university may know. Anyway, let's go on. Ty, you just won. What was the award you just got?
I believe it's the Montague Award, Montague Scholars Award from the, what is the?
It's something.
Center for Teaching Excellence here at Texas A&M is what it is.
Oh, okay. Centers for Teaching Excellence. All right. Okay, so how do you go about doing that? How do you go about winning one of these awards?
Well, my department head, Dr. Lopez, nominated me for it. It's apparently the highest teaching award for an assistant professor here at Texas A&M University, so I'm pretty proud to have won that.
I would imagine. When you're talking about Texas A&M now, you're talking, gosh, I guess now about the biggest university in the state, I would say. Most students, most professors, a little bit of everything, and that is a high honor to get such an award. But what did you have to do?
Well, I think I did put a lot of emphasis on my teaching when I first got here, and because I needed to learn how to teach. I'm kind of an introvert, and it was a little scary to go into a classroom of 60 students in my wildlife techniques class, that first semester. And then I just tried to build some confidence and also give the students some hands-on experience. And the way I did that was kind of reinventing a project that actually my department had, 20 years ago had done, which was capturing, collaring, and tracking fox squirrels on the campus. So they had done that, 20 years ago, and he thought, well, that might be a good idea for you to start again. So what we did is we had the class go out. We would trap fox squirrels in trees and then bring them down and put GPS collars on them, release them on campus, and then track them around with antennas, and then receive that data, and then build home ranges and look at different statistical techniques that we can see their spatial movement, something that we would use on elk or bighorn sheep or white-tailed deer, but we can do that right here on campus, right outside the classroom. It was how do we get 60 students hands-on experience? And I think that was a great way to do it.
Oh, all right. How do you trap squirrels on A&M campus?
Well, we got these, live traps. Tomahawk traps are called. They're like a cage trap. Bait them with some pecans. You got to go with some more expensive nuts here on campus because the squirrels are so spoiled with candy bars and everything else that the students are likely giving them. So we go with the high value pecans, and we seem to catch them fairly easily.
Okay, did you catch an inordinate amount of house cats?
Do we catch house cats?
Yeah.
No, we haven't got any house cats. Not
Really?
Not in the traps in the trees. No.
Now, okay, the box traps go up in the trees?
Yeah, we put them in the trees, and that's for two reasons. To keep other animals from getting in them, and also to keep students that might not know what they're for, to keep them from messing with them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Approximately how many? Okay, over the entire campus, West Campus, main campus, everywhere?
We've been trapping them right here outside of horticulture and forestry sciences. We've probably trapped over 20 squirrels, yeah.
I'll be darned. Okay, and okay, did you have to devise a collar, or do they make them?
I worked with a company out in California actually to make a custom collar for squirrels. It need to be light enough that it's not going to affect their behavior, but also have enough battery to be able to give us data for 6 months.
Okay, so it lasts for about 6 months. Uh, okay, what kind of data do you get? Can you age them? What do you find out? Can you find out when they're having little ones, or what do you find out?
So from the collar, the GPS locations, we can determine like what trees they're using to nest in, how far they travel in a day, what their actual range is. Like we found that male squirrels, we had one that was up to 20 hectares. And then, the female squirrels we had captured are like 7 or 8 hectares. The male squirrels were much more likely to get run over by cars. I think they had a little, they're not as careful as female squirrels. I think we can all relate to that. But yeah, those are the kind of information we get from the collars. But as we catch them, we can assess them externally to see if they're male or female, and then we can, based on weight and size, and we can kind of get an estimate of juvenile or adult.
Okay, so once you've got these campus squirrels caught in a box trap, I can't imagine that they appreciate that.
No, we try to keep them as calm as possible. We don't want to injure the squirrels, so we put a blanket over the trap, bring them down out of the tree, bring them into the lab, and then we transfer them from the trap into a custom. It's a pillowcase actually with a zipper. Put them in the pillowcase, kind of work their way towards the corner of that zippered pillowcase, and we actually modified a oil funnel that we cut, and we can fit that over the cone over the head, and then we can keep the squirrel from biting us. So we got them wrapped up in the pillowcase. We got a funnel over their head, and then we can put the collar on behind the funnel, put them back in the trap, take it outside, and release them just like that. It's actually a pretty quick and easy process.
Okay, all right. No, I nobody got bit.
We wear leather gloves just in case. They're after you once you get them in that pillowcase, but we try to keep them as calm as possible.
All right. Okay. And this study went on for 6 months?
Yeah, we've had, every semester we try to capture squirrels and give the students that hands-on experience.
All right. So you've got some of the squirrels you're catching them 2 and 3 times.
Right. Yeah, we'll have one week of each semester where we are dedicated to capturing squirrels and getting those students a little bit of experience on how to trap and handle these animals.
Okay. Is there the more times you trap these things, it seems like maybe it'd be the more times you would get more and more new ideas about them.
Yeah. Well, I found that some of these squirrels are pretty trap happy. If you've got any trappers out there listening, I mean, it's very easy to catch the same squirrels over and over because they know that they have that easy access to the pecans, and then they don't have to spend too much time in the trap. They get released. So we're finding that it's not hard to catch fox squirrels on campus.
God, dog. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I understand it. I get it. I bet the kids. And how many students do you have a semester?
It averages about 60 students in my one class there each semester, and that's usually about 50 undergrads and then 10 graduate students.
Okay. All right. What's the difference between the undergrads and the graduate students? I mean, that's what. Yeah. What's the upper level stuff?
So the undergraduates are usually senior level, so this is one of their last classes. So I like to, through this class, give them some overview of all the different techniques we can use to to trap, handle, analyze data, things that they can use in the jobs that they're about to go out and get after they get graduated. And then the graduate students, some of these graduate students haven't had a wildlife science background. Maybe they're coming from a degree in agriculture, animal science, or something like that. So this just gives a good overview for a graduate student on the basic techniques. But then in the class, we also require that they, do a literature review on some kind of wildlife technique. That could be how to catch feral pigs, or how to sample vegetation out on a rangeland or something like that. They give a presentation to the class as well. That's one of the requirements of the grad students, and then they also write up an extension style paper on a technique that they've chosen.
Okay, all right. And you mentioned something earlier about moving bighorns, and you're aware that that's pretty prevalent here too. That there's Bighorn Society that works hand in hand with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and that's I know the students out at Alpine have something to do with that, and that's another thing that would be hand in hand with what you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, bighorn sheep are what really got me interested in continuing research. I mean, I got to go up to the Cadman mine just outside of Banff National Park in Alberta. We captured 26 bighorn sheep under a big drop net. It was pretty wild. We had 100 volunteers with all their hard hats on and running in there hobbling sheep and bringing us over, and we'd put collars on and ear tags, and we had to go through the whole process of crossing an international border with bighorn sheep, and then releasing them to an area in the northern Black Hills of South Dakota where they had been extirpated, and then bringing them back to that, trying to restore a population there was pretty cool. And then seeing their numbers grow up there in the Black Hills was a great experience.
All right, now you have, I don't know exactly how it works, but maybe you've already explained it and I just didn't realize it. You have your own research lab, and is that part of this class work, or how's that work?
No, the research lab is, we kind of put quotations around a lab in something like wildlife science, because our lab is the outdoors, right? Okay. So the lab is made up of my graduate students that are advised by me and that I'm mentoring, and they each have their own particular research projects. They're out there, so the master students 2 to 3 years, and then the Ph.D. students 4 to 5 years, working on their own individual research. And we've got 10 grad students right now that are in what we would call the quotation lab, right? That I'm advising. So we're working on anything from otters, spatial ecology of river otters in Texas, to competition between axis deer and white-tailed deer in the hill country. We're looking at how an unmanaged ranch in South Texas responds to management and grazing, and how that influences wildlife populations. We've got other work looking at how the border wall might influence wildlife moving back and forth between Mexico and the United States. We just got research kind of all over Texas right now.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, that was part of my question. No, that's good. I'll tell you what, we're out of time this morning, but Ty, I want to be able to come back and do this some more.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I got all kinds of things to talk about.
All right. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this morning's edition, News from the Camp House. Learned a little something, know what's going on up here at A&M, and that, next generation's coming along. They're studying wildlife, are going to take care of everything. Folks, hope you enjoyed it this morning. This morning's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. Now, y'all go out this weekend. Y'all have a good time. Y'all have a lot of fun. Be safe, and y'all just remember, pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.